Welcome to the Mounting Block. I'm Oriel.
And I'm Marissa.
We're here to inspire each other and, of course, you, our listeners, as we navigate the wild ride of rediscovering our love for horses while juggling work, kids, businesses, and a million other things.
From tackling fears to finding time in between school drop-offs, spilt snacks, business meetings, and marriage, we're here to share the laughs, the lessons, and the occasional mishap in the saddle.
So grab a coffee, a wine, maybe even a lead rope if you're game, and join us for honest, uninterrupted conversations, a bit of mum life mayhem, and a whole lot of encouragement.
This is a Mounting Block. Let's get a leg over and join us for the ride. Welcome back to this episode.
Yes.
Oriel, welcome. Welcome
Well,
to
thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Welcome to
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome to all of you, our viewers or our listeners, however you catch the potty.
Yeah.
Whether you watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Spotify or iHeart Radio or
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes. We're across many places.
Yeah, we're on them all.
And we don't have wine today because we did not have a stressful day.
We had an amazing day.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did have an amazing day.
Different. It was different.
Well,
different to what we normally do.
It was different because we didn't do it together. Like we did it together. So, well, I should give a bit of backstory. Last week, my poor horse, Hickatee, she cut her lip somehow. We're not sure how. We've scoured the paddock. Unfortunately, it rained just after she cut it. So any remnants of any bit of blood was probably washed away.
Yeah.
But she cut her lip, so she needed to get a couple of stitches.
It was quite bad.
It was very bad, poor love. So that in itself was a whole wild world. But and I didn't realize I was squeamish. I thought I was squeamish just with human blood, but actually it turns out I'm squeamish with horse blood
all
too.
of it, yeah.
I nearly fainted.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. It's
No.
when you love. When you love.
Yeah.
When you just
I know, it was a lot. And he kept making me go on that side of her where the cut was, and I didn't want to.
It's just like no disturbing. So I cannot see what you're doing.
Yeah, I wanted to stay away. Anyway, poor darling was cut, and so as a result of that, she has stitches for 2 weeks. She'll have them out next week, and then we'll give her another week so that there's no pressure around her bit or anything like that. So I've taken it as an opportunity to do re-establish some groundwork with her, and so that's where we divvied today.
Yeah. So we loaded together. We went and got the horses together as we always did. We loaded together. We drove to the first destination, which was where you met the fabulous Will from Equine on the Move. Who's going to help you with some of that groundwork. And we unloaded.
Dropped you off
like
a little horse Uber that you are.
My horse Uber. Yep. And then I went on to my lesson, which is the normal lesson that we usually do together on a Thursday morning. And that was actually the first time I'd driven a float by myself in the car. Normally I have you sitting in the car next to me, or last week I think
putting my fake brake on.
Yeah, do it. No, you can. Usually it's the other way around with me though. Usually it's not. You can go a little bit faster.
That's true. Yeah, I'm telling you, you can probably put a little bit acceleration in.
Probably don't need to go 50 in the 70 zone. We get there safely.
Yeah, we do.
But so it was the first time I did that.
Huge.
I actually was so determined not to be scared. I even said to you this morning, I'm not going to be worried about this stuff anymore. I'm just very determined not to be scared. Anyway, I'm driving along, dropped you off, I'm driving along, I'm not scared. And then I was like, ow, my hand is sore. I was holding the steering wheel, gripping the steering wheel. I was like, okay, shake it off.
Yeah, and a sore hand's probably not what you need before you go and ride a horse with reins. So you probably need to relax. But I get it. Like you do feel like you're gripping the wheel because you're so much more conscious of the weight behind you and the corners and the things that you just, you don't realize you're doing it, hey?
Yeah.
But they're very proud of you because then you unloaded Lainey, who, we've had a few like blippy parts with Lainey's unloading.
Yes, we have.
But you've gotten through that.
Yep.
And now...
Not worried about unloading anymore.
Yeah.
Will was fabulous, worked out how to do it, so I know how to do that now.
Yeah. And then you had your lesson, which you...
Cantered over a pole.
Now, this is going to sound like not a big deal to people who don't ride horses, or even people who do ride
horses. They're like, it's not a big deal. It was a big deal for me.
It was a huge deal for you, and I'm super sad I wasn't there to see it because you have been so psyched out about that.
I'm so worried about it because he jumps them, but he didn't jump it today. He just cantered it like
he should.
Like you would expect a normal horse to do. And it was we moved out of the arena into the jumping big patch of grass where there's a whole lot of massive jumps set up. So even that was a little bit intimidating. And then she's like, "Oh, just canter around here," and I'm like,
I'm in an open field with jumps. I don't want to.
And then she said, "Okay, just take a moment in the shade because it's really hot out here." And I saw her pick up a pole because we'd done a little poles, just walk and trot. And I saw her pick up a pole and take it away from the others. And I was like, "Oh no, she's going to make me canter it. Oh no, oh no, oh no." Nearly said to her, "So just maybe we won't do any cantering today." And then she just started talking about something else. So I just kind of went. And then she went, "Okay, we're going to do a trot around here. Trot that circle. Okay, kick him into a canter. Off you go. Off you go."
But you're already on the circle by that point.
It's already on the circle, yeah.
This is huge though, because now you can put it to bed in your mind. You know, no, you can. No, you can. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. You can.
Yeah, no more whinging on that.
Yeah, no more whinging. You're allowed to whinge. It's okay. But I think mentally you need to put it to bed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become like it doesn't continue to be
a big deal.
A big deal because it wasn't today.
It wasn't at all.
And you did it. And now you're going to be jumping.
Yep. No. Well,
she's onto the big ones.
No, not
a meter.
No. And 20 centimeters will be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But you also had some really good wins with Hickatee.
Yeah,
because
I did.
You did jumping, but just not on her back.
That's so true. Yeah, so a lot of the groundwork that I did with her, we did some lunging, and I learned so much even just lunging, like how to use my body energy to slow her down and to speed her up in trot and canter, and to be more sort of strong with when she's not doing what I want her to be doing, to really ask immediately, because she's such a well-trained and responsive horse that she, that's where she can have it over me a little bit. So that was amazing. And then, we took her over some leading, like not on her back, and no bit in her, so nowhere near the cut, but we just led her over some cross-country jumps, and she's a beautiful jumper, and she's so giving, and even when there was like something a bit funny, she just went for it, and she's just a spectacular horse. So I had a really, really great time with Will, and we just sort of resettled, what I want to do with her and how I want to progress with her and what that looks like, and getting my confidence back with her, because, we spoke about it last week that I've lost it. I mean, even today I was like too scared to pick up her back feet. But then at the end of the session, I was like, I'd be totally fine to pick up her back feet. I was just psyching myself out like a little nutcase that I am today.
Like we do.
Like we do. So Oriole cleaned her back feet for me today.
I love the fact that she just lifts them up for you.
No, it's not her at all.
No,
it is not her at all. We know that, right?
Yeah.
She's just so perfect.
Yeah. But
me.
It's a real thing.
It's me.
It's a real thing. Well, I didn't pick up Laney's back feet today because there was another horse. He was tied up to a float. He was being all funny. There was another horse getting its dental work done. There was all these weird noises, and he kept on jumping as I was like, oh my God.
So you did my horses.
So I did your horses, but not mine.
I feel like there's just such a, there's a mental thing that we have to overcome, but then there's also like I guess, who were we talking to? Was it Fiona back in a previous episode who spoke about that part of our brain that's telling us to stay safe?
Yeah.
And obviously there's some patterns that we have to overcome with that brain space. But in that time, if Laney's dancing around on the ground and you're going for his back feet and he's spooking, that's probably the good part of your brain telling you don't go to the back of his legs.
Yeah, don't be bending over, while he's
you might get trampled. He's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. So I think that's, there is part of us, but mine was definitely not that. She was doing nothing wrong. She was standing completely still. That was me. That was all in me. It was all in my head.
Yeah, but we talked about the journey back to confidence, and I reckon it's probably relatable in anything you do.
Yeah.
When you lose your confidence, you just got to take it slowly and be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. What you did this morning is okay.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow you might pick up her back feet and you'll be absolutely fine, and just build on it.
And I was fine.
Yeah.
So, as usual, we're just, you're along for the ride with us. These silly things that we decide.
Up and down journey, but today was really good.
Up and down. But today was great. And I'm feeling obviously missing riding her, but at the same time, I just know this is where we need to be at the moment, and happy to just go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a very interesting guest today.
We do.
Yep. So she's coming to us from California. We'll find out exactly where she is. Danielle Frank, and she's an author, and she's written a book. about parenting, which of course we do like to talk about on this podcast.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
amongst the horses and the perimenopause and the crankiness
and all of
our
that.
husbands.
And all of that. Well, so on that, I should say, one of our fans, very big fan, is my sister. We talked about my sister, Michelle, a lot on this podcast because she knows so much about horses and fabulous instructor and all of that. But her husband, Scotty, and they drive a lot, they central Queensland.
Don't they? They are up and down from home to Brisbane so much, aren't they?
And they put this podcast on and they listen to us on their very long drives. And Scotty, we finally got him to agree to come and talk to us on the podcast. And he is
so good.
Fabulous. He's hilarious.
He's so funny. He's funny.
Yeah. He's a real farmer. Like, he is a proper farmer. He breeds horses and cattle. And he's a fabulous horse rider and just amazing with horses.
I want to hear from Scotty about what's his history and how did he do it all, and what is it actually like living on a farm your entire life, and what is that life, because we hear so much about farmers in our country, and but I love hearing from them about what actually the realities are. But
the farming life is one where you never stop working, right? You never really take holidays, and you never stop working. And yet we've finally convinced him. And I think it was quite funny. I think part of it was because you, on the last podcast, were talking about, do you remember talking about the washing up?
Oh, how they have to announce.
How husbands have to announce that they've done something.
Yeah.
And he actually said, yep, that's about right.
And I said to him, are you going to change your mind? Are you going to stop doing it? He's like, I don't know if I can.
I might tell you more.
So that's great. We're super keen to chat to Scotty. But in the meantime, let's bring in Danielle, who has such a different perspective on life with kids and not kids and all of that. So, I'm keen to chat to Danielle. So let's bring her in.
Hello, Danielle. We're so happy to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be on your fabulous podcast.
Coming to us all the way from California.
That's right. It is nighttime here, and you guys are just starting your day. I'm getting ready for bed.
Well, you look very beautiful there. We've just gotten off the back of horses, and we've got hay in our shirt. And
very grubby, not looking Californian girly.
Oh, you guys look so fabulous.
You're very kind.
Whereabouts are you?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica.
Lovely.
Santa Monica, a few blocks from the beach. It's lovely. Although it's been raining here, so I know my East Coast. I'm originally from New York, so I know my East Coast friends do not want to hear me complain about that.
They've had some wild weather, haven't they?
Yeah. It feels like only a few weeks ago that I was there in Santa Monica, walking along the coastline there.
It was only a few weeks ago.
Here?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Brought the two boys over. We went to Disneyland, and we did spend some time. Actually, we stayed in Santa Monica, in a hotel in Santa Monica, and drove around a little bit. Went to find the Hollywood sign, which was surprisingly difficult to find.
You mean a giant sign in the side of a cliff?
It was very hard to find the right way to go, the right place to stop to find it, but we found it.
How good.
Did you hike up to the sign?
No.
Yeah, I've been here 23 years, and I have not yet hiked to. I keep saying I've got to do it. It's like I'm from New York, and it's like when you're living there, people are like, do you go to Broadway shows all the time? I didn't. I go to more shows now.
Yeah.
I just bought tickets to a show when I go to New York next month, and when it's in your own backyard, you kind of forget to do all those things.
So true. So very true. Yeah. And what moved you from New York to LA?
So I was, born and bred New Yorker, and I love New York, but I just always was fascinated with the world of entertainment, LA. I always wanted to work in the entertainment industry. And when I was in college, I visited a friend that lived in California and just fell in love with it. I mean, it's magical out here. The beach is your backyard. And so when I graduated college, I had gotten a job at Miramax Films, which is the only film studio in New York. And it's where you want to be when you want to be in entertainment. So with that job, I got to go out to LA every month for what's called press junkets, and it just deepened my love for California. And I just, I said, that's it. I've got to do it at some point. I'll probably end up back in New York at some point, but 23 years later, I'm still here and loving it.
Still there,
Amazing.
Still there. Now, I'm absolutely, I'm very curious about you and the book that you've written, because you've written a fabulous book on parenting, but you've paired it with wine. That's the number one thing. There you go.
And what's the title of the book?
It's called A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, the Fine Art of Wine, W-I-N-E, and Whine, W-H-I-N-E, Management.
I love this.
We both have kids that do wine on the odd occasion.
Yep, and I drink wine.
We drink wine to deal with it. So we are very interested in
We're
this
in your
book.
target market. We're in your demographic.
We are absolutely your target market. Tell us about it. Why did you write it? What brought about it? And how do you know so much about wine?
Well, besides drinking it, so my story of when I wrote this started about, I wrote this about 13 years ago. So as I mentioned, I was working in the entertainment industry. I moved out to LA, and then I decided to trade red carpets for red wine, I like to say. And I made a life, career pivot, and got out of the entertainment industry. And I fell into this job in wine and spirits. My sister was working for a company in New York, and it was like one of the few jobs my sister absolutely loved. And she, I quit this PR job out here without having another job. Very unlike me. I'm very type A. And I heard that Bacardi was hiring, and I was like, oh, great. Still
good cocktail.
Bacardi USA. Yeah. Rum. They have Grey Goose vodka, Dewar's Scotch. I mean, they've got a whole portfolio. And so I thought it was just going to be a temporary thing. 10 years there. Now I've moved into a job with Moet Hennessy, which is some of the best wines, champagnes, and spirits in the world, like Veuve Clicquot, Dom Perignon, Moet and Chandon.
Know them well.
All my favorites.
Know them well.
Sisters are all here.
So I've been there I'm coming on my 12-year anniversary. Even though I'm only 21, this is all not adding up. But yeah, so I've started working in wine and spirits. And I've always had a love of wine. And then coupled with a few other factors that went on in my life, I was a bonus mom, engaged to a man who had two boys. He still has them, two boys. And we were engaged to be married, and he ultimately didn't want more kids. And that was something that was very important to me. So I broke off the engagement. So I was sort of going through all these emotions of, thinking that path of motherhood was going to happen for me. And I just, for me, writing has always been a creative outlet for me. I enjoy writing sort of as therapy, but I've also always enjoyed little projects here and there. I love rhyming. I'm really good at rhyming, and worked on a couple actual children's books ideas. So when I broke off the engagement, just thinking about, where I can sort of place that sense of nurturing, I channeled that into my creativity. And I was watching my niece and nephew at the time, who were very young at the time. Now they're adults, which is wild, graduating college, and one just started in college. But, and they were very good kids. But as you know, kids do, even the best kids have the propensity to whine a little bit. So I was watching them once, and they were whining about something. And I said, Auntie Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine. So they kind of all came together, just pouring my heart out and my soul, and this feeling like, motherhood just kind of got ripped out from underneath me. I wanted to pour something in this book of how, creating something that hopefully contributes to, helping people raise good human beings, but in a lighthearted way. And then obviously with my knowledge in the wine industry, I started to just think about all the fun parallels of making, wine knowledge accessible into a fun, how to raise your kids well comparison.
And there are obviously those comparisons when you're drinking wine. Tell us about some of them. What are the most obvious ones, aside from whining and wine?
Well, if I can read a chapter, I'll one of my favorites. Okay, so lesson 3, you don't want your kids to ferment, right? So fermentation, the fermentation process in wine is when you convert sugar to alcohol. So when we think of sugar, we think of something sweet.
Yeah.
Alcohol is something harsh and biting. So this is related to teaching your kids manners, because you don't want them to ferment. You don't want them to turn into something harsh and biting. Okay. Manners, manners, manners are the key to it all. These lessons need to start even when they're small. Teach them this from day one before they start to crawl. You don't want your kid to be the sour grape in the bunch and turn into a spoiled brat that kids want to punch. When they start talking, make sure they know thank you and please, and to always say bless you when they hear someone sneeze. Please and thank you are an absolute must. Without that, your child's a total bust. There's nothing worse than a child who has behavior that is crude, because it'll continue as they're older and become someone who's rude. People don't take kindly to and aren't nice to those with attitude, because it's very off-putting and puts others in a bad mood, oftentimes causing confrontation and leads to a nasty feud. Wanting to put a little bit of poison in your child's food. Is that really how you want your kids to be viewed? Wouldn't you prefer that there's someone who's wooed? Without manners, they'll ferment and turn into someone harsh and biting. They may turn into a kid who's rude, obnoxious, and always fighting. So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
That is fabulous. You're so good at rhyming.
That is clever. Well done. Well done.
How long
It
did
makes
take
it
you
fun.
to write?
Well, sorry, go
How long did
ahead.
it take you to write? Because
It's just as I said, I just love rhyming. It didn't take too long. I was thinking about obviously words that because every time I use wine terminology, I give the definition, and at the back of the book, I give a basic understanding how wine's made. But when thinking about, I was trying to think of words that people would want to know what they are, all relatable words. I'm also thinking about words that rhyme well, right? You're not going to learn about the word oneology in this book because God knows there's not a lot that can rhyme with that.
With anything.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It's the study of wine and the grape. Yeah. So
I'm very good at oneology. Is that right? Did I say that right? I'm very good at it.
Yeah. So
I study it.
Yeah, so I just started thinking about like all the relevant terms that people would want to know the definition to and what would make a fun rhyme, and then how it can relate to raising good humans. There's a chapter in there, is your kid a mulled wine? Well, mulled wines are generally, the way you make a mulled wine is you heat it. It's served with spices, and it's, oftentimes in a punch bowl. So this is your kid heated? Is he spiced? Are they packing a punch? Is your kid a bully? Know who they are outside the home. So it's poignant things about, raising, good human beings. And I always say you don't need to be a parent to know good behavior in human beings as well.
Oh, it's so true. And can we I really am impressed with the take on it all, because it's really organic and different. And I think, parents certainly need humor in their lives as well. And I'm sure there's big. So before we do end this podcast at a later date, you need to tell everyone where they can buy the book and get that, because I think that would be a great gift as well to some new parents. But what I would love to.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say it's the perfect gift. Every baby shower anybody goes to, bring that in a little onesie, or any parent, but any wine lover, any caregiver, a teacher. Anybody that just wants to learn about wine or likes a good humor book too.
I think it's got a far and wide market there. But what I'd love to know is, so just picking up on what you said about, motherhood was ripped from under you. That's very difficult thing probably to say out loud, and the fact that you didn't end up in a motherhood journey, which you'd told us about in your biography. So what does that look like for you now, and how did you get through that? Because we have people in our lives that are in a similar position, and I'd love to help them with what you've learned.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that truly I have zero regrets. I thought that path was, the journey I was going to go on. And I quickly realized, let me back up. I talked about how I made that sort of career pivot, right? From entertainment into wine and spirits. And that was kind of a defining moment for me to learn about life has plot twists, right? And, and I dove headfirst into that new journey that I was on, and it proved to be amazing and a powerful journey. I love this new career that I've embarked on. I've, and I realized that I had the courage to start over, start something new, and that I can handle it. And so then when I decided to break off the engagement, and as years went on, and I realized that motherhood wasn't happening for me, I just realized instead of letting those detours define me, I learned to rewrite the story entirely. I think when you embrace life's pivots, and that's what I talk about a lot, is that's the most important thing. We all think that we're on this one path to the Wizard of Oz, this yellow brick road. That's not life. There are so many different paths along the way. And, you just have to learn to cross over the bridge. And, when you realize that you stepped off one path and stepped onto another, dive headfirst into it, because wallowing in what didn't happen is only going to inhibit you moving forward. And I've just learned, to rewrite that story and embracing a life that looks different than I expected. Discovering the freedom, the humor in it, and, discovering what the joy in my life could be without not embarking on motherhood, for example. And what that means for me is I am, really active in my niece and nephew's lives. I'm also Aunt Danielle to so many of my friends' kids, and I love that role a lot. I don't have to pay for college. When they really have those tantrums, like they go back to their parents. But I think I just get the best seat in the house. Like I am the cool Aunt Danielle to so many friends. And I've also just learned to redefine what my passions are in life. And a lot of that is, I love traveling the world, and I want to see everything. And, every time I'm about to go on a new trip next month, I'm already planning the trip after that. Like I wouldn't have been able to do that with kids. And while I'm sure if I had kids, I would have been very happy with that life, I've redefined what happiness is in this existing life. And I've never had one day that I've been sad or regret the journey I'm on. I've just, when you learn to just get excited about what the story is that you're meant to be on. I always say that every chapter is the storybook. Everything that happens to me is a chapter in the storybook of my life. Like instead of being sad about not getting married, I remember my mom and sister were like, screw him, like, why didn't he tell you he didn't want kids? I was like, you know what? He kind of did. I just probably chose not to see it right away. He sort of waffled back and forth. I said, but I wouldn't trade it for a second. It was a great experience. I closed that chapter, and now it also taught me a lot of things that I took into future relationships and to future pivot moments in my life as well.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
How do you do that? Because what you've just described is amazing. And I think certainly when we all go through changes in our life, or we don't get what we want, or we don't get what we expect is going to be our life. I mean, these are big things. You deciding, taking, the fact that you've decided, well, okay, my life is one where I don't have my own children, but I've created this incredible life around it. Actually taking that step to get your head around it and not being really sad or devastated or, crawling into a little hole in your lounge room and drinking too much wine and all of those things that we do when we're feeling sad and not very strong. How do you do that? Like what advice would you give to those people out there that might be going through something similar and are going, how do I get to where Danielle is now? Like what is that in between road, the in between journey look like to get from that feeling, it might not be having kids, it could be anything. But to be very positive.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's hard. You wish you could just take a magic pill and just be like, oh, I feel great about it. It's everybody obviously has their own path and their own journey. It's certainly, for me, I think it's also like trying to find what's going to bring you joy in that moment. Like for me, that was part of the therapy, was writing, like having a creative outlet, and not even just writing projects. Some of how I got through that was just writing like to myself. I was writing to myself like about the broken engagement and I kind of saw it, and okay, like I just sort of laid it out for me. Some people enjoy talking to a therapist. I enjoy writing to myself, bringing it all to the surface. It's hard.
It's probably a lot cheaper too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had a magic answer for like, how everybody can do it. I'm sure it's easier said than done just to say like, try and find the positive, but that's all you can do, right? I mean, if you're going to wallow in the sadness, that's going to inhibit you from propelling you forward. It's, it's just going to stand as a barrier. So I guess it's just trying to figure out like what you need to do to cross that bridge rather than, stay stagnant in the middle of it. Is it asking for help? Is it talking about it with somebody or with yourself or with people? Or is it finding a new hobby or discovering an old hobby that, you kind of abandoned? I don't know. I think it's a lot of self-reflection, that's for sure.
Didn't we just talk this morning about the power of having a conversation and talking to people and
opening things up and allowing yourself to talk about things that are just sitting under the surface that you don't want to talk about? Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, probably people who and, making assumptions here, but what society is telling us and the way that people approach these situations is probably not always the most eloquent way of saying to you, to people without kids, well, are you ever going to have kids? What does that mean for you? Can you be happy without children, particularly coming from people who have children? Or people might say, I'm insanely jealous of your life and wow, good on you. But I imagine you probably have over the time been met with some judgment and some questions that maybe you don't want to answer or that isn't really anyone's business, but they like to ask these things. Like when I had my first baby, they said, when are you having a second? Then when I had my second, they went, you're not having any more, are you? And I was like, well, I don't know. There's, people want to know. People want to know your information and your plan.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
People are nosy whether you do have kids, whether you don't have kids. I think it just makes people feel better about their, the things that they might not be happy about in their lives. I don't know. I mean, I do think like as we've gotten older, right, like it has changed quite a bit. Women are having high power careers. They're having children later or choosing to not have kids at all. So I think it's really helpful. And I will say like the podcast arena, I mean, I love it. Promoting my book, I've been doing so many of these podcasts. I love the organic nature and the conversation of doing these podcasts. But I've also like, we talked about this, like, beforehand, there are thousands and thousands of podcasts out there. And I know as a listener, I love discovering all these podcasts because there is something for everybody. There are podcasts talking about that exact thing, right? For somebody going through, bucking traditional or quote unquote traditional norms, or, you can find that. And then just like, I think that's really helpful to people is to listen to real life stories and know you're not alone. I mean, I'm very lucky. And I think that's the secret too, right? I'm very lucky that I actually have a network of friends. All my friends out here, they're late 40s, early 50s. Most of them not married. Most of them decide like same thing, just life evolved and they didn't end up having kids, even though they thought they would. So having that network, it doesn't mean that I surround myself only with friends without kids. I was just out with my friends Nancy and Micah and their son Hudson, who calls me Aunt Danielle. And, it's just surrounding yourself by a little bit of,
your support network.
Support network. And so again, if you don't have that, if somebody's going through this and they're surrounded by, all married friends asking them when you're going to get married or friends with kids and they're going to listen to podcasts or listen to, find content that just reinforces, the messaging that you need to hear at that moment for sure.
So you're not alone.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I think you're absolutely the beauty of what we have now with conversations and the internet and all those things. We do have connection at a wider span of people outside our immediate, who we see in person. I think sometimes it's the old aunties. Why aren't you married yet?
It is a very old-fashioned way of looking at life now, isn't it? Because we're all doing different things when we want to and how we want to. And
well, you didn't do things the traditional way. You got married. What, was it a couple of years ago?
Three years ago.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, it was actually my anniversary yesterday, and I completely forgot for the third year in a row.
Yeah.
So wait, you've been married for 3 years, and every year you've forgotten your anniversary.
I've forgotten my anniversary.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Did he remember?
Babe. He remembers every year.
Oh,
and I've got a card and a present.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
That is failing as a wife. Sorry, babe.
No.
Sorry, babe. I've now put it in my calendar.
I mean, that would have been helpful. That would have been helpful the first time you forgot. There's some tools here.
But even his dad sent us a beautiful bottle of champagne, and oh my god, it's lovely.
No,
Sorry,
that's too
babe.
funny.
Anyway,
That's
sorry,
hilarious.
just brought it up. Anyway,
Sidebar.
moving on.
Happy anniversary to you and your husband, and
Thank you.
definitely set a calendar reminder for next year.
Yeah, I've done that. But
Yeah.
but I mean, I had kids very late, much later than most. I mean, my second child I had at 44, so
Yeah.
it's different.
Different ways.
Different ways of doing things.
Different strokes. I think, just
And
being
it's-
accepting.
Yeah, and it doesn't make one right or wrong. And I think that's the beauty of the evolution. Again, like, I'm turning 52 this year. It's, when I grew up, it was like you were getting married at this age, have kids at this age. And
Yeah.
I love seeing the shift in society. And it's like, look, I love being in love. I've been very lucky to have some great relationships. I'm not anti-marriage, but I do think now, like, oh, if it does happen, it probably will happen when I'm a little older too, because I think sometimes when people, like, if I got married when I was younger, my first love, I don't know, we'd probably be divorced. Like, I didn't know who I was back then. And, a lot of people don't know who they are when they're younger. So it's very hard for people to, grow up together on the same journey. When you can, it's great. But that's why, maybe when I'll meet somebody later on, I'll know who I am, and hopefully he knows who he is. And, it's certainly, and hopefully it'll last longer that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a really nice sentiment. I think that's a good, way to think about things. And you're right. People are constantly evolving and understanding more and more of who they are.
When did you decide, like, when did you actually come to the either decision or realization, whichever one it was, that this was your life and you were not going to continue trying to have a child, and you were actually going to make the decision to embrace who you were in this life now? Like, was that recently, or was that a long time ago that you sort of went, no, this is...
So when I broke up with the engagement, when I broke up with him, I was like late 30s. And so I froze my eggs. I did all that.
Yeah.
And, it was like, okay, great. I have this insurance plan. And, if I don't meet somebody, I'll have a kid on my own. That's it.
Yep.
But then life progressed. And as I said, I embarked on this career. Simultaneously, I was building this great career in the wine and spirits industry. And through that, I started, traveling for work, traveling the world personally. And, then I just started to see, like, travel was always a passion of mine. I studied abroad in college and traveled the world. And so I'm always curious about seeing everything and seeing every culture and trying every food and doing everything I can with this one life that I have. And so through time, I actually, I ended up meeting a guy, and he was 12 years younger. I was a total cougar.
Love it.
Yeah. And so, we ended up falling in love. I thought it was just going to be a fling, and we ended up falling in love. And so here I am in my 40s, and he's, just turned 30. So he wasn't quite ready to think about having kids yet. So we just, we knew I had my eggs frozen, and we're like, all right, kind of put this on the top shelf. And then while we were dating, then being with me, he started to now see about like traveling the world, and we just pick up and we want to go try this new restaurant down the street. And we start, we when we moved in together, we had this great ocean view apartment and, overlooking the water in Santa Monica. And so like one by one, I don't know, we both actually collectively came to the conclusion, like, maybe that path isn't for us. Maybe we'll adopt way down the line. But we're really enjoying this moment now of doing what we want, when we want, being selfish, embarking on all these travels, picking up and go, doing all these things. So it started to be something like became our life together of like, wanting to put that on the back burner. And then just, we ended up breaking up. And I also realized I don't want to go that journey on my own.
It's a big decision.
It's a big decision. Yeah. And I wouldn't be able to travel for work, forget about the travel for fun. A large part of my job requires travel, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And, that would mean a career shift and all that. So just all these things in motion just made me realize, you know what? I think I'm okay. I'm really enjoying this journey that I'm on. So it's okay that I stepped off, that last journey that I thought I was going to be on.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's amazing. So before we wrap up,
Yeah.
do you want to tell our listeners where we can find your amazing book and
Yeah,
just repeat the title for us?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can see this is my baby. So, you know, I'm not completely a mother. He's just,
Now,
you know,
in the back of the shot, we are seeing
yeah, that's my dog.
It's a
that
dog.
little pup that is
Yeah,
what
little
breed?
Lazo. Just he is a total mutt. He is a lab husky Shiba
Oh my
mix.
gosh.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
Beautiful.
so you know, I get my nurturing through that baby.
absolutely.
But my book, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting: The Fine Art of Wine and Wine Management, it's available online on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com as well.
Amazing.
Good job. Well, I'm definitely keen to read it and have a laugh and look at it for some parent gifts as well. I think I reckon that's a golden idea.
Thank you, Danielle. It's been absolutely lovely having you with us.
Thank
And,
you so much. It's been so lovely to join you both.
And thank you, of course, to all of our listeners, as always, for joining us today. We'll
Yes.
see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks so much. Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you. Bye.